Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing wonderfully well. Today for a two-part video regards setting up, or how I set up my Winwing HOTAS and how you can use those settings if you want, if you do have or are going to get your own Winwing. What we're going to look at in this video is how I have set up all of the controls and buttons and what I use everything for generically in all of my aircraft. And the second part of the video is I will show you how you can download my user files for all 41 aircraft modules, and you can install them onto your PC if you want, and therefore you'll get exactly my control setup. That's the second part. So first things, let's start with the stick, I guess. So the way I've got it set up is I have it hanging off the table. It comes with these clamps, as you can see. And the whole idea of that is you can have it between your legs. Whoop, whoop. So I tuck in nice and tight like that because I'm going to get quite close to the screen because the track AR is a bit duff. And I'm flying, obviously, I'm right-handed, so I usually fly with the right hand. But so stick, I mean, first of all, the massive difference it is from using that, which is a 9-inch extension on a base there, to, if I can see it, you know, the traditional HOTAS. So I've come from an X56, which is a, you know, maybe 3 inches sway either side, and this has got kind of 6 inches sway either side. Pretty much the same sensor, more or less, as far as I'm aware, a 16-bit sensor. So the information it sends to the PC is pretty much the same, but it's the amount of movement I have that makes the difference. So on the X56, as I'm sure all you guys have got standard HOTASes like that, you have to put a curve on your roll or cyclic in a helicopter, or and your pitch movement. You have to put a curve in your stick to give yourself enough control around the finer movements. And the cool thing about this is that you don't need to do that. You've got enough sway either side that you don't have to put any curve. So I haven't put any curve except for two planes, the Spitfire and the Gazelle, which are just so quirky at small movements. Even with them, I've had to put some curve, about 10 size curve on the stick. In terms of using it, it takes a long time to get used to using this after having just a stick up here that you just make small movements to, where it's all in your wrist. This, completely different, it's all in your arm. So for this, kind of hard to see, but the whole arm moves back like a, you know, real F-18 pilot. And that takes a lot of getting used to. I'm finally starting to get used to it now. So to roll an F-16 hard, you've really got to move it right over like that. Which is interesting. I should say the other thing I've done is I've taken the axis of this, you can rotate it and then fix it back in position, and what I've done is I've rotated it 15 degrees around like the real plane. And if I suppose I should be doing this the other hand, and now it's so much better like that because I had it straight before, if you know what I mean. Now it's rotated, I can get all the buttons much easier and much more ergonomic. So yeah, I'm just about getting used to it. Now, once you do get used to it, and this is not a sales pitch, this is just how it is, it's so cool having this massive wang like this. Like, look at the size of the movement you have, and I don't think you'll ever go back to a little stick again. It seems so puny after that. And having a big dogfight, yes, I'm terrible at the moment because I'm still getting used to this, and I'm still trying to learn where my buttons are, but having a big dogfight and pulling this thing like right into your gut is really quite special. Yeah, so yeah, really cool, really immersive. Next, we'll go on to the buttons. So, do we start? Obviously, trigger, two-stage trigger. Okay, so ing and pang. So what I've done for all of my aircraft is I've had the first stage does basically nothing apart from aircraft where first stage does do something, like the stabilizer in the A10, like the F-18 it does a lasing, F-16 it does something I think as well, but most it doesn't. So the first stage I'm just using as a tensioner, which takes ages to get used to, by the way, if you come from a X56, because X56 you just put a tiny bit of ing and it fires. This, the first click is your tension for most of your planes, then you hold, and then the second, which takes quite a lot of pressure, so it's difficult getting used to. And what you tend to do is move the stick when you press it, which is why I'm so worse than normal at gunnery at the moment. So the second detent is what I'm using to fire the gun or the weapon in a Mirage or a flanker or something. Okay, so that's that. I'm going to swap hands again. Ping. That's my weapon release, as I believe it is. I'm pretty sure it is in the real F-18. That took a lot of getting used to because the weapon release on my X56 is no poo. It is literally there. So I'm used to going chow, missile out, chow, drop bombs. Now I'm pew, missile out. So that's taking a bit of getting used to. What I tend to do is fumble around there. So I'm still getting used to that. That's that. Trim hat is always going to be a trim hat. Same place in the X56. Up, down, left and right. Not much to say about that. There is a depressible thing on this. I should say as well, in case you don't know the Winwing, all of these 4 hat switches, 1, 2, 3. Technically that's a hat switch as well, but it's not relevant what I'm saying. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 can be used as a clicker, up, down, left and right, and press, or an axis. You can change it in the hardware setup, so it becomes an axis. You can use it as a slew. I haven't actually taken advantage of that. I've left it exactly as it is, vanilla, because that's how I want to do it, but just, you can if you want. I don't know where you'd want to, but you can. Anyway, sorry. Trim, just your basic trims, also has a depress function. I'm not using that for anything. I've just not found. I thought about maybe using it for a helicopter as the trimmer, because a helicopter doesn't have trim as a trimmer. But instead, because I'm so used to the X56, which doesn't have a push function, I'm just up or down for the trimmer in a helicopter. Pickles, please behave. That's that. Then you've got your primary button here, sorry, your primary 4-way here. Again, you just use as a 4-way with a depress. So this I use as my primary 4-way in any plane, okay? Now that's different coming from the X56. Let's go over here. It doesn't really have a primary, the X56, where I've come from. And neither really is the Warhog, to be honest. But that there, it's got 3. It's got the trimmer at the top right, and then it's got 2, secondary 4-ways. This has got, because this is a real stick, and this comes into one of the, well, I'm not, so it's not a bad thing, I'm trying to say, but one of the things that I miss about the X56 is that it's designed to be unrealistic, but incredibly functional. This is designed to be exactly as it is in the real plane. It's, it's just the differences. So I've got this primary 4-way. So what I use that for is what I consider the primary thing in all of my aircraft. So Hornet, SCS, sensor control switch, up, down, left, right, and a depress ping. Harrier, SSS, sensor select switch, up, down, left, right, and a depress ping. Land-based aircraft, F-16, A-10, 2 A-10s, then I use that as TMS, target management switch, which I consider that my primary function, up, down, left, right, and then TMS depress, or just another function that I can use there. So I was thinking about using TDC here, but I've gone off that. So that's my primary switch on each plane. An FC3 plane, master mode, BVR, bore sight, vertical scan, so whatever the master mode is in each plane. Okay, this little guy here, I hope you can see it, the sun's just going in a bit, is, I didn't use that to begin with, but now, what I should say is I've had this for about 3 weeks now, and what I've done is spent my time going through all the, just changing things, trying to set up, don't like it, try a setup, don't like it, try a setup, don't like it, try a setup, don't like it. It means I feel like an idiot, or more of an idiot like normal, but it means I can get to what hopefully I like in the end. So I've got it now how I like it. This little guy here, I've decided in the end to use as my, what I'd call my secondary. Okay, so if the plane has got what I would consider a secondary. So when you fly all of the planes like me, and I'm sure a lot of you fly all of the planes, or lots of planes I should say, then you have to start thinking how you can set planes up to be similar to each other, especially if you've got a small brain like me. Otherwise it becomes incredibly difficult to remember all the different planes. So when I go to secondary, planes have a secondary, like A10, F-16 have a secondary, right? They have data management switch. Then that's data management up, down, left, right. Now because this is a little bit fine, I don't use the depress. Not that there is a data management switch depress, but anyway. But I don't like using the depress because it's so hard to press depress without accidentally pushing up or down if you're in a fight. So that's going to be my data management switch. Could be my secondary in like a Jeff. It's going to be my soy switch, for instance. So I'm soy. I can't remember what it's called, but it's what I would consider the data management in a Jeff, and that's going to be my soy up, left, down. I think it's dogfight for up, but like that. In a Hornet, I can't remember. Let's go and have a look, shall we? Now some planes aren't going to have what I call a secondary. So in that case, it's just going to stay unused rather than just filling it up for the sake of it. Because what I want is uniformity between all of the different planes. So here we go, Hornet, and it's nothing. Hornet doesn't have what I'd consider because well, this is the real Hornet stick, you know. So what was secondary to use that for? So and I don't want to use it as a TDC, because a TDC I want to keep uniform and a throttle. So for the Hornet, I've just said it's nothing. Okay. Now for planes that I don't use it as a DMS or a SOI type switch, what I do is there you go, I use it as I use the pressure function of it. So if I'm not using left, right, up and down, I use the pressure function of it as a backup. So I don't know if you can see there, but I'm using the backup as a TDC depress. I have TDC depress on the TDC on the throttle as well, but I like to have that extra backup just in case, as we'll go and have a look at in a minute. So that's how I use that. Obviously, that's a primary trim/trimmer, SOI/TMS if I've got it. If not, then I'm going to use it as a backup for a TDC depress. Now the other thing you can use it for is a third trigger. Some planes have 3 triggers in DCS. Okay, you got your gun, you got your cannon, and you got your bomb. MiG-15, for instance, I think has that. There's a whole bunch of others I can't remember. So, but they don't have TDC depress, so I'm going to use that as my cannon or my bomb, release rocket fire, whatever. Okay, so that's that. Now the things onto this guy. I've used this guy for so many different things so far, and I finally settled. I've tried view, and it's just not quite right because I don't want to be messing around here in a dogfight changing my view when I should be concentrating on my master button, on my my banger here, my TMS. Dogfight switch, whatever. So this has now gone to weapon master mode. Okay, so master switch, TMS, DMS, or just a backup, and this is going to be my this is my weapon master. So let's think what we got here. We've got Tomcat, cannon, sidewinder, Sparrow, or Phoenix. Note that this is actually quite hard to press left because the thumb has got almost very little strength to kind of pull it like that. You'll just have to, if you have one, you'll know what I mean. So what I do is I always have the depress as a backup for left. So forward, left, back. If I can't get that, which I can't sometimes, it would be useful if this was actually cross-hatched both ways, but I understand it's a replica, you know, you're not supposed to change it, so it's fair enough. So that's what weapon selector. I'm just thinking of other planes. Harrier, similar, sidewinder bore sight, sidewinder seam, cannon select, and a backup sidewinder bore sight. FC3 plane, cannon, just pick my planes, Hornet, sidewinder, cannon, you know, it's the same in each plane, which is the same in each plane. Sparrow, AMRAAM, so you get to keep the same as you possibly can. What else have we got in here? Then you move into a plane where you don't have a weapon selector per se, an F-16. You're going to have, you don't have the weapon select per se. I mean, you do have a stepper, but it's just a stepper in an F-16. Oh, I should say, we'll come back to that. So in F-16, we're going to have, well, because it's the nearest thing, which is your mode. So dogfight, which is the same as sidewinder selection in all the other planes, to keep it as standard, as simple as possible, and then missile override to the left, keeping it the same as the missile selection. So that's going to select your missile in F-16. That's going to select your sidewinder and gun. Okay, and all the other planes I base on that idea of your cannon where possible, your medium range Fox 1 where possible, your Fox 2 close where possible, your Fox 3 where possible, or the closest thing you can get to it. Okay, you've got your latch. Now one thing I found out, interestingly, sorry I can't find him now, where is he with the camera? There's, you've got your latch here, your paddle, sorry, latch. You've got your paddle, and some planes, relatively few planes it turns out, actually use the paddle. When I've just rebound all 41 planes, and only some of the planes actually use the paddle, like the Hornet and a handful of others. So the majority of planes that don't have the paddle, as it turns out, I just use it as an auxiliary. I can use it as an auxiliary wheel brake or something like that, just in case. Just a nice little thing to have. You know, most planes have an awkward thing that doesn't fit into the scheme of what we're doing so far. So vegan, master, you know, emergency air-to-air mode doesn't really fit. I suppose it could technically fit on this guy here, but just as an extra one, boom, just in case air-to-air. And finally, your nose wheel steering switch, which is all planes have most of the planes have a nose wheel steering, which is going to be used for undesignated stuff as well. Ping, kind of there where it should be. That's that. So to revise, obviously trigger, as we've said, which I'm still getting used to, weapon release, your master mode switch, trim/trimmer, your DMS or SOI if you've got it, or backup TDC depress, your weapons/master mode selector, or for you know, regards weapons, your nozzle steering button, and your paddle. Done. Next, we're going to go over to, let's do the Quadrant next. This is technically known as, I think it's known as the startup panel, but whatever. So I'm using just a tiny bit of it at the moment. As time goes on, I'm going to probably add some more. I've just, you know, I've literally just got the plane set up, so just the basics. So, gear up, gear down. Okay, so in fact, I'm going to be on the right hand, so I'm going to come off the throttle, back, and this is all blind obviously. I don't have VR, but you know, you don't want to look at any of this, so it's all done by feel. I wonder, by the way, how much a real pilot does all this by feel, because it's not that much different from a real pilot really. I look down off the screen, I lose SA, but I don't want to do that, so I do it by feel, just down, and I use that as my reference. That's my reference. I go there, gear up, gear down. Obviously I don't have a gear handles up there. Interestingly, you can actually buy all the gear handle stuff from Winwing, but not too happy with that, because what you'll do is you'll leave it up, for instance, or no, yeah, you have it up, you'll leave it up, and then you'll take off, and then you'll realise I want to go up. Then I'm already in an up position. So what I'm doing, which is no good, so you'd have to go down and then up. So what I'm doing is I'm moving over to this one. All the Russian planes, of course, you have to have 3-stage gear switch in a Russian plane, up, down, and neutral pressure. So what you have is up, neutral, and down. So what I'm doing is slowly moving my planes over to this one here. Up, neutral, and down. Now the useful thing about that is, for a non-neutral plane, just an up and a down plane, you can leave it in the middle here, and then you can up or you can down. You can much better switch for it. So I'm doing that. This little beauty, oh come on, what am I using this for? Oh, parking brake. Yeah, Harrier, really important now. Parking brake, a bunch of other planes, MI8. Parking brake you need. Again, use one with a neutral position. It's really hard for me to explain, but the neutral position one just works so much better. Parking brake on, nothing. Parking brake off, nothing. Parking brake on, and so on. Okay, this is my reference here, and this is my auto start. I know Milsim, and you should remember how to start your planes. No, I can't start 41 planes. You can't do it. So auto start, ping, middle position, because you don't want to auto start or auto stop by accident, and auto start off. Okay, that's as far as I've got using this panel at the moment. Obviously I've got pretty much infinite scope. I just haven't memorized all this lot yet, and so that's going to come later. So what the ones I want to add next are, I'm thinking of adding my antenna position for my radar here. I still don't have that set up, so that's what's going to come next. Antenna position, and so I can kind of just slide. So I'm fighting, slide off the throttle, and you just kind of feel it with the back of your finger there, and then radar position. Scan up a little bit, scan down a bit. One thing to remember is we've got to remember to neutralize it afterwards. Okay, otherwise you're going to get in your F-15 or whatever, and you've left it here up to the sky, and suddenly you can't see anything, and you're like, why isn't the radar working? Oops, I forgot to. So that's something I have to get used to. Just haven't got around to it yet. Auxiliary here, you know, obviously I don't care what they're used for in real life. I'm not interested in that. For me, is what I want in most of my planes. So this is going to be my HMD, because you're only going to probably do that once. So in my Hornet, my F-16, I'm going to be careful not to hit the radar cursor by accident, and there, on, leave it. Yeah, pretty much that. Nothing else is used at the moment, and that will come later. Which leads us on to throttle standby. Now, to lock the throttles in together is a little bit awkward in the Winwing. You've got to put a key or something in there. I haven't even tried it yet, but and I thought that was going to be a problem because, like the X56 and I think the Warthog, you just lock them in place, ching, and then they're a unit. Turns out it's actually fine. I haven't even missed it at all. That's fine. So, friction, I leave off friction. A tiny bit, because this is big solid metal, you know, this is not plastic. Zero inertia X56, you've got to worry a little bit about some things, like, so if you leave it in the down position, you know, there's no friction there, so gravity sometimes will just ping, take it down, and like suddenly, oh, you've lost an engine. So you've just got to be a little bit sensible with it if you're going to use no friction like me, but obviously you can change that, and that's analog, so that all works. So I always have that. That is the master thrust. So in single plane variants, that is master thrust. But I'm going to use them both, obviously, because I need access to all the buttons and controls like that. No, I've modified my afterburner latches here, detents latches, whatever you call them, I can't remember. With bits of wire. No, I'm not supposed to. Yes, I probably will get in trouble. But the good thing about that is I don't have a detent for the afterburner. Now, why is that a good thing? For me, how I've got my desk set up, and yes, I will redo this at some point, it's just never any free time, is there? It's just never any free time. If I have that detent, I push, that'll transfer to the desk, which will wobble, it'll move the monitor, I've got that stuck down now, but still, it'll wobble, you know, it's just not a good thing. Unless you're going to, what Kelso's done is he's bolted his whole table to the wall now, so his detent doesn't push through, doesn't, you know, wobble the desk, so maybe I'll do that, you know, but later on, I quite like it without the detent, to be honest. I like that. One thing interestingly is the massive amount of throw. When I first tried this, I thought it was about the same as the Warhawk. It turns out it's nearly twice as much. We've got Kelso and me to measure it. So it takes a while to get used to this. However, again, like the stick, once you get used to the enormous throw, it's actually bloody useful. Because, I mean, again, the sensor is just, well, as far as I'm aware, the same the same type, if not the same, you know, type of 16-bit sensor in both of those units there. They give the same output, but the beauty is you've got twice as much movement per bit, you know, per number between 0 and 65,000 that goes to the computer. So you can get the most fine movements. Again, to begin with, it's actually detrimental. Like the stick, you fly worse until you get used to the muscle memory. And then suddenly, it becomes even easier. Formation, stuff like that. It's like, oh my God, I've got such fine control here. Obviously, you don't have to worry about any curves and stuff. So stuff like that, you can see why. Because when I first got this, I was like, why are they sending me this giant friggin' shoebox, which is just a massive pain in the butt, obviously. Because the size, I can't fit up my desk. Oh, I see the reason. It was because you need that massive fulcrum, look. Fulcrum's down there. Because you'll want that huge throw. So that's what I'm used to now. Now in a dogfight, that's weird, right? Because you're used to, in a dogfight, with a, you know, a little stick going, afterburner, off afterburner, afterburner, off afterburner. Now in a dogfight, it's, wow, God, you throw yourself forward off the seat to get there. So don't get me wrong, this takes a lot of getting used to doing this. But again, once you are used to it, you're just like, yeah, you know what? I don't want to go back to a small one. It's weird how that works, isn't it? You're terrible and you hate it at the beginning, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, you know what, I don't want to go back. Right, that's that. Lots of yapping, not much actual information, I'm aware. Back to the friction. So the only difference is a Harrier. Now, this comes to one of my, I don't want to say gripe, because it's not, again, this is a simulation stick that is not made for functionality. It's made to replicate what's in the F-18. The only little bad side about that is, of course, you don't get the kind of silly stuff like you do on the X56, which is incredibly useful. Turny knob there, it looks stupid, incredibly useful. Turny knob looks stupid, incredibly useful. So I've had to do without that. So you just find other ways around it, obviously. So you'd have a turny knob on the X56 for your nozzle position. You know, I would constantly thrust it down here like that on the X56. Really, really useful, really good control. So what we're doing instead, when it comes to a Harrier, and again I haven't mastered this yet, but you know it's going to take weeks or months. Put the friction up, maybe about half, so they're not going to fall down anymore. And separate these. This becomes your nozzle position. Ping. You know, 90% of your flight, you're just going to leave it up there. This becomes your throttle. It's kind of more like the real Harrier, isn't it? Because he's got two sticks, I think. It's just what I've just been used to something different. And then you're bopping along, flying along, and then you come down nozzle position like that. And I've just found the problem with that as I'm speaking. I haven't flown the Harrier properly. Just noticed that my push to talk buttons are there and there. So a slight problem with that is that I'm going to have to go fly my Harrier in formation, and when you're in formation, you're you know, you never stop if you're doing it properly. And then I'm going to have to go, where am I going? Hi guys, is that Bandit? So that is one problem I've spotted. I'm going to have to find a solution for that. Now what I don't want to do is come off the HOTAS to do the throttle position. Like some people have said, for the Warthog, if you can see it down there, they've got the little grey leaf. By the way, everyone keeps asking for these. I can't give them to all of you, and no, I'm not going to accept money for them. I will give them away I'm not finished with them yet. I'm using them for things like this. Well, please don't ask for them anymore. I will give them away in a free competition. That's the best I can do. Anyway, we were saying I don't want to come off and use kind of like that on the Warthog as the axis, because you can't. You really need both at the same time. So I don't know. I'm going to have to find another solution for the Harrier. I'll figure it out. Right. So that's the usage of the throttle. Next, buttons dans le throttle, and let's have a look. So I'm presuming this is meant to be the TDC on the Hornet. I don't really care if it's not. You know, that's what I'm going to use it for. It's set up as an axis as standard. You can change it to a clicker, but I'm going to use it as an axis. Up, down, left and right. So this is TDC on all aircraft that have a TDC. Obviously, Warbird is just going to be blank. Okay, you do have a TDC depress on it. Now, as you'll all know who use axis TDCs, it's very hard to depress that without moving it a little bit. You see, you can move it. It's very hard. And what happens is then you'll move it onto a plane, contact on the radar, click it. Oops, I've accidentally moved off the plane. Really annoying, okay? So what I've done is to get around that is I've got a backup TDC depress, as we saw earlier, on some planes there. Ping, 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 ping. That don't have a DMS or a SOI. Secondly, neat little trick. But I've just got to change all 41 things on axis command. Now, just got to find it, stand by. There they are. I'm on a whatever F18 here. Throttle designator, axis tune. So what I've done here, if you can see that, is I've gone dead zone 0 because it's perfect. And when, it just sounds like a sale pitch already, but I've not had to add. It's the only stick I've ever had. I haven't had to add dead zones in. Everything's centered perfectly, which is nice, as you can see. Dead zone 0. The one I brought up is the one I haven't done yet. Absolute ball cake. Ignore that. What should I say? I forgot to do it. Let's try again with this plane there. RDR cursor switch, basically TDC on the F-16. Axis control. There we go. That's my standard now. Okay. So dead zone 0. X saturation, even so, this is vertical and horizontal, and I don't know how this works. This is just trial and error. I've made it work. X saturation 100. You want to be able to use 100% of the movement of the thing that's under my finger. Okay. Saturation Y, the actual input it's allowed to make onto the aircraft, up to 60%, and some planes you might want to be a bit lower. So you can't go to the full movement because if you do, it moves too fast on the plane. Yeah, so you want to detune it on almost all the planes, and this is my standard I've worked out. Then put a massive curvature on it of 30, so that if you do move it while pressing depress, it doesn't move. The actual input it gives is not that much, so it won't shift off the actual plane. The RDR cursor won't shift off the plane. So that's what I've determined is the best. It seems to work the best. Let me know if you think I've done that wrong, but just from practicing, that's what I've done. By the way, I don't invert that. So what I use is the down, I consider as forward, and that moves the TDC up the screen. That's just what seems most natural. Anyway, that's what I figured. Let me know if you think, because I may have done that wrong. I still don't fully understand how that works there, and see what you think. Anyway, I'll leave that. Next, the view. The view, really important. X56, lovely knob on the top. That's wonderful because A, it's an axis. B, it's a non-returner. So you turn it so you can get your perfect resolution, and you can leave it in position. And then as you're dogfighting, you can just roll it with the thumb, in, out, leave it, in, out, leave it in, out, leave it out. Because these are replicas, they don't have that, because a real pilot doesn't have a zoom in knob, right? So we have to do what we can. Warthog found really hard. This one, a little bit easier, not perfect. Now, there he is. You see that guy there? I don't know what he is. I think it's called a thumber or something on a real Hornet. Again, I don't really care. I'm using that as my zoom in, zoom out. Now, the interesting thing is I use two different methods. One is I use this guy here. This is a spring loaded, so it pops back to the middle. So zoom in, zoom out, zoom in, zoom out, zoom in, leave it, zoom out, back to the middle. Okay, now I use that as my emergency one. So dogfight or something crazy happens, I'm onto that. That's the index finger, whatever this finger's called, yeah? Ping in and out. Now, that, because that's spring loaded, it goes back into the middle, and you don't want to have to hold it for a long period like a big formation flight. You can't. Try holding that. I know it sounds pathetic and nerdy, but you try holding that in a perfect position, you'll have cramp in no time, because I've tried it. So what I've done is I go down here. Now I've tried these several times in several different kind of scenarios, and what I've decided on is this one here. This and this are both 4-ways, and I've got them set up as switches rather than axes. And this guy here, you can just rest your thumb on it nicely. Zoom out, and it will go whoop, zoom in. Whoop. And the good thing about that is it's a non-returner in the way that it works, because you set this up as a binary instead of an axis. If you want to focus something on for ages, out like that. So that's what I've got there. You suddenly get jumped, quick go to this one here, which so you got your axis for your quick zoom in out, and you've got your binary for zoom in and out return. Is it as good as the X56 knob? No, it's just the best you can get there. So think, sorry, that index finger's on there, my mistake. Index finger doesn't come off your TDC. This finger, middle finger, is on the zoom, yeah, which is why it's so hard, because that middle finger doesn't move very well. So that's how you're flying. Now, the good thing about this is the thumb then sits on this all day. And the good thing about that is it's a good neutral position. What I've been doing is flying around for the last 3 weeks, just going, where's that? Because these are all very foreign to me at the moment. I can't get used to the position or the feel with them. I'm really struggling. So what we've got now is that as a neutral. Now that there is my neutral position now. That's how I fly. It's going to take a little bit to get used to. TDC, emergency, close range, zoom in, zoom out. Long range, relaxed, zoom in, zoom out. And then if I need to step onto him, as we'll look, I can step up and forward. I don't have to go searching around because I've got that neutral position. Then if I want to go to my countermeasures, I can go just down one. So up one, down one, up one, down one. I'm not flapping about. Okay, so that's what that's for. Now, I'm not using any of the other functions of this. The reason is I don't want to click anything by accident, and I don't want to overcomplicate this button. I want to keep it simple for my zoom in, zoom out and hold. Okay, that's my logic behind it. Again, I've tried all different things around here, and that's just how I've settled on it. Okay, so that's one function only, boom, done. Next, this guy here, and I'm having one of my traditional, oh yeah, right, so this is going to be my control surfaces, okay? All planes are going to use it. Forward, air brake out, forward, back, air brake in, flaps down, flaps up, and no depress. Keep it simple, keep it easy, keep it so you can't get it wrong. Simple as that, okay? And you can just step off that zoom, step off the zoom. Oh, I'm in formation, bit of brake, brake off, bit of flaps, flaps up, back to neutral, okay? Countermeasures, you're going to, in an emergency, at the moment I've been fumbling trying to find the countermeasures, can't do any countermeasures, so neutral position and countermeasures. Now this is an interesting switch. You've got, it's a 3-way switch, it stays in the middle. If you put it in like that, it flips back. So, and you put it out like that, it stays. Okay, again, I'm not really sure what it is in the real Hornet, I'm not particularly bothered, but what I'm using that is back flares, 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 or the equivalent of, and then forward, chaff. Now that is a bit annoying, because if you're going to chaff, you have to push forward and pull middle, push forward and pull middle. I'd prefer it if it returned, but that's the way it is in the real Hornet. So flare, 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 chaff, chaff, chaff. Or if it's a program-based, thing, then like an F16, I just use the one program, manual program button, ping, 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 and that's it, really. Cage, uncage. Most planes are going to have a cage or an uncage, and you've got it there. Or if it's not, can't think of any examples. Or like an FC3 plane that doesn't have a cage on cage, or at least some. No, I don't think they do they? Then I can use it as a weapon change button, which I'd probably have there as wherever it is there as well. But weapon change, just something easy to get to there. That's that. Sorry it's taking so long, but whatever. It's Christmas. Not working at the moment. Push to talk buttons. Flight. I'm still getting used to these because they're opposite way around to make X50s. Flight and so interflight. No, oh god, intraflight, interflight, and maybe back up as a guard. So we're changing the way we work. I think these are master lights. You guys probably know better than me. Using it as that basically. I think you put a pinky in the A10. The A10 is a little bit different here. The only difference in the A10 and what we've been saying is that A10 I use this as my boat and my china. Forward boat, back boat, middle boat, china, china. Because it's not a warthog and that's the best I can do with that. Otherwise everything's pretty much the same. Countermeasures on the A10 only use one button anyway, so or 2 buttons anyway, so I'll just use that. That fits fine. Otherwise, there's not really much to say. And that, sirs, I think is it. That's how I got my Winwing after 3 weeks. Now, I've saved, took a few hours, but I've saved all of these lures so that you can now import them if you have a Winwing or you can buy a Winwing. I will do a video showing exactly how you can do those. It means A, you can have exactly the same setup as me, which is just really useful because when I'm making videos and stuff, you'll have everything set up identically to me. It's just, it makes sense if we can work as closely to each other as possible. It's just for obvious reasons. And B, it means you don't have to bother setting up your own planes, which, let's face it, is probably the most difficult thing of DCS, setting up planes in the sticks to get it right. So you know, you're not going to have to go through weeks and weeks of trying out new things like I had to do. Then it's going to be useful for that. I'll do that in another video. Otherwise, I hope that's useful. Have a Merry Christmas, and I'll see you later.